Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. My name is Dec and with me is a guest who I've not actually recorded with in quite some time. This is my good friend Chris, otherwise known as Commie Chris on YouTube. Feel free to introduce yourself, Chris.
Hey guys, yeah, it's been a while since me and Declan have done something like this, so I'm very excited to come on here and talk about the big news that was revealed today from DC.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming really in these last few months since it was announced that James Gunn and Peter Safran were going to be taking over as the co-CEOs of DC Studios. And today they came out and announced the first initial chapter of their 8 to 10 year plan, as James said in the video. This is referred to as Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters. So I guess I'm probably going to be comparing it to Marvel a little bit throughout this, but obviously Marvel does it phase 1, 2, 3, blah, blah, blah. It seems like they're doing this in chapters and giving each chapter a sort of subsequent subtitle, which in this case is Gods and Monsters. But before we dive into actually what was announced and what projects we're actually going to be getting from this, James Gunn did mention a couple of things up top, which I thought were quite interesting to mention. The first thing he mentioned was everything is connected, which he has sort of previously mentioned before, but particularly he's saying that the films, television, and also gaming are all going to be connected within the same universe, which I think is quite an interesting talking point, given the fact, especially with gaming, I think that's going to be quite difficult. And also it does make me think, you know, he's sort of saying that perhaps the same actors are going to reprise their roles from project to project, because even animation is going to be connected as well. So I thought that was pretty interesting just to start with, the fact that everything sort of from a certain point of this DC output is going to be connected within one continuous continuity.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I was aware of like the movies and stuff and TV shows announced. What I didn't know is that the games are also going to be connected. That part took me by surprise. I'm like, okay, how are they going to do that?
Yeah, I don't know, because I mean, movies and television are quite, you know, I think, you know, Marvel themselves have sort of proven you can do that, keep that consistent, but games is such a different medium.
Exactly.
I don't know how they're going to do that. I think that's going to be quite a struggle for them. Obviously, it depends how many games they plan on making. We've recently had the release of Gotham Knights, which I'm currently playing. Obviously, that's not connected. That's not even connected to the TV show we're getting under the same name. And then there's Rocksteady's Suicide Squad: Kill the Justice League, but that's been already announced to be a part of the Arkham universe. So that's not going to be connected. So I guess it's just a wait and see. One thing that could potentially tie in is there is a Wonder Woman game coming out in the next few years, developed by Monolith, who did the Middle-earth Shadow of War games.
I forgot about that game.
Yeah, I keep forgetting about it as well. But that is happening, and we haven't had an actual announcement in regards to Wonder Woman yet, so I don't know if maybe that could be a thing. Maybe this is where our introduction to Wonder Woman in this universe will be. That'd be pretty wild, to be honest, but who knows? So yeah, everything is connected, which is kind of cool. I mean, it'll be nice because DC has been a bit all over the place the last few years. There's been some highs, been some lows, but I think, you know, overall it's been kind of a mess from year to year. The other thing that he mentioned before the slate was he really established the idea of DC Elseworlds, which obviously fans of the comics will know that's kind of storylines that don't exist inside of the main DC timeline. And he's basically saying that projects like Matt Reeves as the Batman and everything connected with that, Joker 2, all those sorts of projects are going to continue to be made, but they aren't going to be a part of their main DC timeline. So there were theories going around that perhaps Robert Pattinson was going to be folded in as the mainline Batman. That isn't going to happen. We have had it confirmed that we are getting a new Batman for the DC universe. So all the stuff that Matt Reeves is doing and everything that Todd Phillips is doing with Joker is being completely kept separate, which I think is fine. I'm happy with that. I personally didn't want the Robert Pattinson Matt Reeves universe to be folded in because I think that works really well on its own as a standalone. I don't think it needed to be folded in. I think tonally as well, it wouldn't necessarily work. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of on the same boat, but at the same time, it would have been cool to see Robert Pattinson Batman interact with a larger DC world. But yeah, I'm still fine with it being separate either way.
yeah, I just think, especially with the way Matt Reeves has been talking about building out that universe, particularly, we've got like a few TV shows in the works, like the Penguin one and stuff like that. I feel like that's already developing by itself. So to kind of bring all that into the DC universe would have been, I think, quite a heavy task. So I think it's best to keep that train running on its own. So that was basically everything. Oh, the Batman sequel is officially titled The Batman Part 2, and that is getting a release date of October 3rd, 2025. So we got that confirmed, an official release date, which is nice. So this is when they actually started to bring in the new slate. But before he actually went into the new projects, he did talk about the ones that are upcoming, like particularly this year. And I wanted to mention these as well, just because he did have some sort of interesting points that perhaps hint towards certain things. One of which is like the next movie, which is Shazam: Fury of the Gods. He did sort of hint, in the video, he says that Shazam has always existed kind of in his own corner of the DCEU, which is true to a certain extent. So he's saying that is kind of easy to connect, is what he said. So does that maybe hint that Zachary Levi is sticking around?
I think it does, yeah. And I think I can't remember I saw it, but I saw somewhere saying that basically Shazam 3 is going to happen.
Right.
Essentially. So, so I am pretty sure that the DC plans that James Gunn has. So whatever James Gunn is cooking up, exactly as part of the plans. Regarding the rest of the Marvel family, the Shazam family, I don't know about them, but I know Zachary Levi will probably be sticking around.
Yeah, I'm okay with Zachary Levi sticking around. I mean, I really like the original Shazam. I'm excited for the second one. I mean, I just find it difficult sometimes because I think if I personally were James Gunn and I was tasked with this, I would have done a complete reset. So I think him keeping certain things, I just think it's a lot cleaner. It's a lot easier. You're not confusing people.
Exactly.
So like he didn't outright say, Zachary Levi is staying as Shazam, but that particular wording of how he sort of spoke about it kind of suggested that perhaps he would be sticking around. But I do like him in the role. It could potentially mean that, we are going to get a Shazam within this new universe, and it is a new version of the character. It's just he's going to be reprising the role, similarly to what Charlie Cox did with Daredevil recently. It could be something like that, but it's purely a wait and see. Like I say, it's kind of just something I wanted to discuss quickly, just to kind of get over that. He then talks about go on.
I was just going to quickly a quick comment. Let's hope that Black Adam actually interacts with Shazam this time.
I mean, in this particular case, with James Gunn in control, I'd say probably. But it depends. Is The Rock going to play Black Adam? Because The Rock seems to be the reason why that didn't happen. Yeah,
definitely. And I don't know why. Like, he's not a Superman villain. He's a Shazam villain. It just always baffles me why I was trying to make Black Adam versus Superman happen.
It never made any sense. Like, it felt like The Rock just kind of came in. He wanted to do this big thing with DC. He wanted to take on the biggest and the baddest. But the problem was he was cast as Black Adam, which, yes, a very strong character, but again, no real connection to Superman, really. He is Shazam's main villain. And the fact that him and Shazam never interacted, bizarre. And I do wonder if there's going to be any reference to Black Adam within Shazam 2, because there is like a slight reference to him in the first movie. So I don't know if there's going to be anything in the second one. I doubt it, to be honest, as I believe it was reported that the Rock declined a cameo in the movie. So I don't know. But then the next film after that is The Flash, which is coming out in the summer, which he did describe as resets everything in the DC continuity currently.
And okay, so I'm glad you mentioned reset. So here's where my opinions are most strong. So I feel The Flash should have been served. If James Gunn wants to do a whole reset of the DCU, this movie should have just reset everything. So going forward, they should have a new cast entirely, not bring back any of the old actors, because otherwise, like you said, it would just confuse people. It will feel a bit messy, and so because of the fact now that we're going to have some actors still be in their old roles whilst getting completely new actors in different roles, it's like, okay, so was the old DCU, is that still canon, or are these completely new characters? Or it would have been easier just to do a whole reset after Flash, personally.
Yeah, that's how I would have done it. Like, you've got the perfect sort of vehicle there with the Flash to reset everything. We know, based on the very small looks we've had at it, that they seem to be adapting Flashpoint in some way, shape, or form. Very, very loosely at least. So that's your perfect opportunity there. Like, that is the whole reason Flashpoint was created in the comics was to reset the universe. So you've literally got the perfect opportunity there. And it does beg the question as well, what's going to happen with Ezra Miller? Because, I mean, in my opinion, cut him loose. Like, he's only going to add baggage to this. I mean, Peter Safran did release a statement today about Ezra Miller, saying that they're currently very committed to therapy, and after they're ready to return, they will discuss the future of the character and him playing the role. But I think, in my opinion, you just got to let him go. It's just too much trouble at this point. Too much has happened, and I just don't see a future of the DC universe with Ezra Miller in it. I really don't.
I agree. Like, he's got too much baggage, too much negative press on him. Like, why do you want to carry that with you? Just let it go.
Yeah. And then the other two films we've got left is Blue Beetle, which I think is coming out in August, which he didn't really say much about. He basically just said it looks really good. And then we've got Aquaman 2, which he then said leads into the new era of the DC universe. So, which again I find interesting. He says Flash resets everything, but then we've got Blue Beetle and then Aquaman 2. I don't know. Also, we know, like, obviously Jason Momoa is sticking around to some degree, based on what he said recently. What does that mean for Aquaman? God knows. But that then leads us actually into the slate. Go on, mate.
I think they said Aquaman 3 is going to happen.
I did see that, yeah. It sort of was hinted that might happen. And James Gunn has also said that actors won't be playing more than one role. So does that then just sort of confirm that Jason Momoa is Aquaman from now on? Like I say, with the old continuity, there's so many questions left. This was very much a focus on the new stuff, which is fine. But like I say, they're definitely going to have to do some, I think some cleanup before we actually get to the launch of this new universe. Leading us into the actual new era, this is where he actually announced Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters. Now, I mentioned this to you before we started recording, but it seems like there isn't an official timeline for these like 10 projects they announced in regards to like what order they're actually coming out. So I'm just going to talk about these in the order that James Gunn talked about them. So like I said, I'm guessing the Superman movie is probably the first, but that wasn't the first one he spoke about. So we'll see. So the first one he mentioned was a animated TV series called Creature Commandos, which is going to be animated, and it seems to be kind of a Suicide Squad-esque idea, a team of kind of these horrific monster characters that are apparently run by Amanda Waller. And like I said, it's going to be animated. James Gunn has said he's already written the entire season. I think he said it's a 7-episode series. I could be wrong.
Wow.
But it looks kind of interesting, to be fair. Like, I mean, I've never heard of Creatures Commandos. I don't know if that's got any precedent in the comics, but
I've never heard of them either. So
no, I have a feeling this is an original idea. But it's, I think this is very classic James Gunn style, taking a team of very obscure, unknown characters and giving them a vehicle to kind of launch a franchise with. And he did say in this particular section that he very much has plans for characters in animation to come over to live action and reverse as well. So actors who portray the characters in live action can also do them in animation and vice versa, which is cool. Like, again, just having that sense of continuity, I think, works quite well. And the other interesting thing about this is one of the characters who's been confirmed to be a part of this team is Weasel, who was maybe my favorite character in his Suicide Squad movie.
Well,
and at the end
it
of
was more
that
like a
movie,
cameo.
yeah, more or less, but I just enjoyed him. Very funny in my opinion. And at the end of that movie, in the post-credit scene, he did actually escape. You find out he survives. You think he dies, but he actually ends up surviving. So does that mean that the Suicide Squad ties in? Possibly. But either way, I'm kind of just happy for more Weasel, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Weasel's cool.
He is. And sticking with the Suicide Squad, he then announced that we're actually getting a Amanda Waller TV series with Viola Davis reprising the role. So again, this seems like perhaps that corner of the universe with the Suicide Squad and Viola Davis and Peacemaker is coming over, which I think, makes sense from a personal point of view. Like James Gunn, he did this, he made that Suicide Squad movie. He also made Peacemaker, so it makes sense he'd want to bring that over. But again, I personally wouldn't have done that. But apparently this is going to include characters from Peacemaker, which I think is cool. Those characters are very beloved. That show is very beloved. I personally haven't seen Peacemaker yet, actually.
You haven't seen it?
I haven't seen Peacemaker yet, no.
What have you been doing?
Getting through many, many other things. But yeah, I mean, it looked great. I do want to check it out, but I just haven't actually had the chance yet. But it seems like Peacemaker season 2, from what I can understand, has been put on hold. And we're going to be getting this instead. So that might upset some people. But like I say, my main question with this is, do you think that this is that particular continuity sticking around, or do you think this is a new version?
It's tough. I think because it's Viola Davis, Amanda Waller, I'm leaning more towards the side that it's the same version. I'm leaning more towards, but at the same time, I don't know, because obviously James Gunn said that after the Flash, everything's going to be reset. So it could be a case of like, it's the same actress, but a new version of Amanda Waller. But then that will confuse the general audience. Like you and me, we would know. Yeah. You a difference, but the general audience will kind of. Did you get that part? Because I just realized that I cut out a bit.
Yeah, it was jumping a bit, but I think the general message got across.
But I'm leaning more towards the side that it's the same version as the one in the Suicide Squad and the Peacemaker show.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I can respect is that, I mean, Viola Davis, I think, is possibly one of the best comic book castings of all time, honestly. Like, she's so perfect as Amanda Waller. I don't think you can get better, so I get, why they want to keep her around. So I guess that's fair enough. And it could be an interesting series. She's a very interesting character. So to go deeper kind of into perhaps her backstory and stuff like that, I think it'd be quite cool. And then he discussed something that we already found out about a month or two ago, which was his Superman movie, which is officially titled Superman Legacy, and will be releasing on July 11th, 2025. And this is described as the true beginning of the new DCU. Personally, I'm very excited about this. James Gunn is writing it. He hasn't said whether he's directing it or not. I'm going to say he's probably not directing it, but he is writing it. And for me, like, I have been waiting for a long time for like an actual, really true comic booky Superman movie. We haven't had that in a very, very long time. I think Superman and Lois has gotten us close, but not quite. I think that's still a little bit darker for me than what I'm really looking for a Superman movie. So this really, to me, I think is going to be the Superman movie I've been looking for a long time. Something closer to like what we're getting in animation recently.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for the new Superman movie. Obviously, it's a shame Henry Cavill is not going to be playing him again. I think he was good as Superman. It would have been good to see his version continue, but obviously they want to reset. They want to start from the beginning. And actually, that's another thing. So if you want to start from the beginning, so you're getting rid of Henry, why? Okay, you're getting rid of Henry. Why are you keeping people like Viola Davis?
Yeah,
Or Ezra
this is
Miller?
what I mean. It's messy, and it's especially for, like you say, your general audience. It's going to be very, very confusing. You've got your engaged people, people like me and you, people watching who, we're very engaged in this stuff and we know the difference, but your general audiences are just going to get confused. And this is part of the problem with the old DC universe as it was. It doesn't have the kind of established point to it that something like the MCU has. With the MCU, they've reintroduced Charlie Cox as Daredevil. It's a new version. And that universe is established enough where people can say, oh, well, we have this new version coming in. That's fine. But the DC universe, you can't do that. People, it's not like any of these. And what I don't get is that beyond like maybe Henry Cavill and I guess perhaps maybe Ben Affleck, none of the actors really within the DCEU are that beloved in the same way that someone like Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man is, or Chris Evans as Captain America, where, people are just clamoring for these actors to come back. Like I say, Henry Cavill aside, he has a very strong fan base, but I don't understand why there's just all this. Some things are staying, some things aren't. It's a dumb idea, in my opinion.
Yeah, very dumb. But it is what it is. We just have to wait and see how it all plays out.
Yeah, and I mean, like I say, I'm very excited about this. I've been looking forward to a new Superman, and I'm excited to see who they cast as well, because I feel like it could be a really, like, whoever they get this time, I think is going to be our Superman for a very long time.
They should get me. I'm already in costume.
You've already got the suit, so you might as well. I don't know who I'd get, to be honest. I quite like Glenn Powell, actually. I've thought about him recently for Superman. He was in Top Gun Maverick this year or last year. I think that could be a cool choice. I'm kind of just hoping he gets a big role because I also quite like him for Human Torch in Fantastic Four. So I'm hoping he gets like one of those roles because his character in Top Gun is very kind of applicable to Johnny Storm. So I think that could work quite well. And he's got the blonde hair. It just works, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Although speaking of, he actually could be applicable to this next project as well, which is Lanterns. Now, this is one I was very excited about. The one thing I said before this announcement was I really wanted a Green Lantern project. And this just sounds brilliant. A big budget HBO Max series about Green Lantern with both Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart. And it's being described as being True Detective inspired. This just sounds brilliant. Like, I love Green Lantern. It's one of the most rich and awesome parts of DC lore. And I think it's great that they are doing it with both Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart. There's always this debate about which Lantern is going to be the lead. So to do it with both of them, I think it's great. And like I say, Glenn Powell be a great choice for Hal Jordan. But yeah, like a big budget HBO Max series all about Green Lantern. I am absolutely on board for that. Maybe I personally might have preferred a movie, but depending on what sort of storytelling they want to do, perhaps this is more of a long form story. Perhaps that's better suited for HBO.
Is the Green Lantern project, is it a movie or HBO?
It's a show. It's an HBO show.
Okay, right. I thought it was a movie. Okay, cool. Because I obviously I was aware of that they were doing a HBO Green Lantern show, but that they announced that so long ago. I forgot what was actually happening.
Well, I believe that's been shelved.
Okay, so in favor of this new Green Lantern
favor
show.
Of this, yeah.
Okay, right. Cool, got it.
Yeah, but I mean, in my opinion, like, this just sounds like a great idea. Like, I've been waiting for new Green Lantern stuff. We've been getting little drip feeds here and there. And like I think the old HBO Max show that they announced would have been cool, especially because they were focusing on Alan Scott and Guy Gardner, which I think would have been an interesting choice. But if this is a reset, I think starting with Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart is probably your best bet, as they are kind of, I'd argue they are the most well-known Green Lanterns.
Yeah.
And then the next thing he mentioned, which I literally know nothing about this, is the Authority. Have you ever heard of these? Because I literally have no idea who they are.
Nope. Can't help you there.
No. The way James Gunn described it was they are a team of superhumans who basically are just trying to set the world right. It was kind of described in the press release as being a bit irreverent, which kind of made me think of The Boys. Like, is this going to be DC's take on The Boys? But in my opinion, why try and do that? The Boys is just, you can't top The Boys. It's so good.
No, like
There's
for
nothing
me,
you
The
can do there.
Boys. Yeah, The Boys is now my third all-time favorite show.
That's completely fair. It's up there for me. I adore The Boys, and the thing is, you can't. The problem they've got with this is if they try and make it like The Boys, which I could be completely making this up. This is just how I've interpreted it. If they're trying to make it like The Boys, they are going to be working at a very restricted level because they aren't going to be able to do the same level of crude comedy. They aren't going to be able to do the same level of violence purely for the fact that this is going to be with the DC brand. I can't see them going full 18 rated like The Boys is. They could do. Right. I mean, this is James Gunn. They could do that, but I personally don't see it. And like I say, that is what makes The Boys. That's what makes it unique.
Yeah, exactly.
So if they're kind of doing a more tepid version of The Boys, what is the point? And it's just not going to be the same. Like, there's just no point in doing that. So hopefully this is something a little bit different. But like I say, I don't really have much to say on it because I have no idea who these characters are or their history in the comics whatsoever. He did say they would be interacting with other characters within the DC universe, so I guess they're going to be important, but we'll have to wait and see. The next project announced after that was Paradise Lost, which is going to be a show based in Themyscira. They've spoke about this for a long time. They've been saying they want to do a Themyscira show. It just sort of never really materialized, but I guess now it is happening. Again, we won't really touch on this much, but again, this does beg the question, like, there's been no announcement of Wonder Woman. Is Gal Gadot returning? Like, we know she's in the Flash movie, at least in a cameo. So is she being brought over? I mean, Wonder Woman 3 apparently was shelved.
Yeah, well, Patty Jenkins left, so then they haven't found a new person.
Yeah, so I think that's kind of a interesting one. But it could be a kind of different way of doing the Wonder Woman origin, perhaps showing Themyscira first and then introducing Diana, but and again, that'd be different from the films we got fairly recently. So yeah, it could be interesting. I'm not too excited about that, to be honest with you. Then we got the announcement, this was quite a big one, of The Brave and the Bold, which is the DCU's introduction to Batman. Completely new Batman we're getting. This isn't going to be Robert Pattinson. This isn't going to be anybody we've had before. This is a brand new Batman. And most importantly, this is also going to be the introduction to Damian Wayne as Robin.
Yes.
Now, I don't know how I feel about this.
Okay, I'll let you go first. Why are you feeling that way?
I just think it's strange that we're going straight to Damian. Especially when you've got so many, like, again, if this is a reset, if they're trying to do the DC universe kind of, you know, properly, I guess, why are we jumping to like the fourth Robin when we've got Dick Grayson, who becomes Nightwing, who's a pretty big character, and then you've got Jason Todd, Red Hood, Tim Drake, my personal favorite, so I'm annoyed about that, and then Damian. I mean, and Damian is probably my least favorite Robin as well. I've never really been too keen on. I've never been too keen on Damian. I've always found him a bit annoying, to be honest. Interesting stuff with like the ties to the League of Assassins and stuff, and obviously it is Batman's. It's Bruce Wayne's son.
Exactly.
I don't know. I've never been too keen on Damian, and I find it strange that they're skipping through multiple generations of Robin and going straight to Damian. I think that's quite weird.
Right. So I agree with you in the sense that why are they doing Damian this early? But Damian's actually my favorite Robin.
Well, you and James Gunn actually have the same opinion there, because he did actually say that in the video. He said that Damian is his favorite Robin, and that's why they're doing it.
Yeah, so like for me personally, this is the project that I'm most excited about, because obviously Batman is my third favorite character of all time. So anything Batman, sign me up. And yeah, Damian, I want to see Damian Wayne because he's the son of Batman. But then I do think it's a bit early for Damian Wayne, because for Damian Wayne, you need to establish the League of Assassins, Batman's relationship with Ra's al Ghul, or Ra's Al Ghul, however you want to pronounce it. Personally, I say Raz, but whatever. And you also need to establish his relationship with Talia Al Ghul. So unless the Brave and the Bold movie is going to be about the League of Assassins and it ties into Damian Wayne, then I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I say, with Damian, you get a lot of, just naturally out of his origin, you get a lot of sort of writing baggage. Like you say, you've got the League of Assassins, you've got Ra's al Ghul, you've got Talia al Ghul. You need to establish all of that. So unless this movie is kind of playing double duty as being a Batman origin, where we see Batman with the League of Assassins being trained, meeting Talia perhaps, and they kind of fold the Heir of the Dragon storyline and the Batman origin into one, and then on the other hand, you've got Damian. But that also sounds like a lot to do in one movie.
Yeah. And plus, it will kind of be like they've already done a Batman origin with the League of Assassins, Batman Begins. So like you're doing this again.
Yeah. The other thing he did mention is that this is going to be the introduction to the larger Bat family. So I don't know if that means that perhaps these other characters like Nightwing, Red Hood, do they already exist in this universe?
Yes, they do. Yes, if that is the case, then they 100% do exist already. So if we're going down that route, then what I assume is happening is that this version of Batman has been Batman for quite a while, and he has already had this history with the Bat family. The Brave and the Bold movie is just going to be the next chapter in this Batman story. It's obviously it's going to be our first introduction to him, but he's been Batman for years, and he's had a Robin in Dick Grayson. I'm not sure if Red Hood has been done yet, probably, but we'll see. Batgirl, she's been there. So yeah, I do think that this is going to be a more experienced Batman.
I'm down for that, purely for the fact that I think, that was what they tried to do with Ben Affleck, and we never really got that fully materialized. We never got that movie with him. That does beg the question, though, like, how old is the casting for Batman going to be? Because they have said that the casting for Superman is going to be a bit younger. And I always imagined Batman and Superman to be of similar age in terms of casting. That's how I've always pictured it. So does that mean that this Batman's going to be a bit older than Superman?
Seems that way. And another reason why I do believe that this Batman is going to be a bit older is because we already have a young Batman in Robert Pattinson.
Yeah, true.
True. So yeah, I'm 95% sure this Batman has been through a lot already by the time we meet him. So yeah. But yeah, I do believe that he's going to be a bit older than Superman. It's only logical.
Yeah. I mean, I am down with that. Like, I still find it a bit strange that, we have so many great stories. I love Nightwing in particular as well as a character. Under the Red Hood is one of the best Batman storylines, arguably ever. So the fact that they're skipping over that is weird. I love Tim Drake. Skipping that is weird. So going straight to Damian, it is quite a lot, but at the same time, it could be very cool. It could be a very good story. And then they announced a Booster Gold TV series, which, I mean, certainly a random choice, but Booster Gold is a great character. And I'm personally here to see what they do with it, because he's very different. He's very out there. And I think as a show, this could be quite wacky. But if they pull it off right, especially on HBO Max's budget, I think it could be a really strong contender and like a really key pillar as part of this universe.
Yeah. We were actually supposed to be getting Booster Gold in Legends of Tomorrow season 8 was it now?
8, yeah.
It's season 8. Obviously, Legends got cancelled, so to see him now getting his own show, we're excited. I'm excited for it. Because I know for a long time fans have been wanting to see Booster Gold in the Arrowverse. And we did, but only for like 2 seconds. But yeah, so seeing a new version, I'm excited for it. And to see how he interacts with the larger DCU.
In fairness, I think if Legends of Tomorrow had gone ahead and we had got that version of Booster Gold, I think in general, I mean, maybe Arrowverse fans would have been okay with it, but I think, your large DC fans probably would have hated that interpretation just based on his look. You know, it wasn't a very comics accurate version, at least, you know, from the look we got. Whereas I feel like this is going to be very comic accurate. So I think maybe in the long run, this might be a good decision. But it also would have been interesting with Legend of Tomorrow because, of course, you did have Rip Hunter there, not as part of the team in that current space and time, but obviously Rip Hunter being, I always get it mixed up. Is it Booster Gold's dad or is it his son? I can't remember. I can never remember which way around it is. But either way, Rip Hunter is a relative of Booster Gold, so you could have had an interesting story there, and maybe they would have brought Arthur Darvill back. I don't know. But in my opinion, I think them doing this instead of Booster Gold on Legends is probably a good idea. Very sad that Legends got cancelled, and obviously the Arrowverse is sort of coming to its end, but this, and obviously the Arrowverse is very important, particularly, you know, to me and you. It's kind of our bread and butter. But I think this is probably a better decision in the long run.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I was seeing the look of him in Legends didn't really get me excited to see him in season 8. I'll say that.
Yeah, I was sort of feeling the same, to be honest. And then they announced Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, a Supergirl movie, which, cool, I'm down for that. Only thing with Supergirl is, like, again, kind of similar to Damian Wayne thing, kind of strange we're going straight to Supergirl. Yeah, it's very early.
Yeah.
However, one thing I will say is that James Gunn mentioned that this particular interpretation of Supergirl is going to be a lot darker, which I think is great because Superman, obviously, I think in this version is going to be quite lighthearted, which I think is good. And obviously the Supergirl TV series that we got was very lighthearted. So I think them kind of doing a darker take, and perhaps this is like a darker reflection of Superman's story, I think could be quite cool, to be honest. I think that's a good way of doing it. Again, I think it's slightly early to be doing Supergirl. I think you could maybe introduce her perhaps in a Superman sequel and then go from there. But I mean, to be honest, but from the way they're pitching it, I think this sounds quite good. Maybe too early, but good.
So this is a movie, yeah? This is a movie.
It's a movie.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Obviously, well, yeah, of course, it can't have another Supergirl show so soon after the Supergirl show got cancelled. Well, ended. But yeah. I wonder if Sasha is that how you pronounce her name? Sasha Kyle?
Sasha Kaye, I think is her name.
Yeah. I wonder if she's gonna reprise her role. Because she's in the
Doubt
Flash.
it.
Yeah. They'll probably start again. Yeah.
Although it could be one of those things where they haven't made that decision yet because they'll wait and see how she actually does in the movie.
Yeah, that's actually very true. Oh, speaking of, James Gunn actually did say that The Flash is one of the best comic book movies ever made.
He did say that, yeah. I mean, to be fair, I think there is merit to that purely for the fact that when you look at Warner Brothers and what they've been dealing with this Flash movie for years, you know, with all the stigma around it, everything with Ezra Miller, I think it would have been very easy for them, especially when they cancelled the likes of Batgirl, just to be like, let's just can it, like, or even like just stick it on HBO Max and just get it out there, get it done. But the fact that they've been pushing for this movie again and again and again tells me that they have got something. Like, they must have something good. They must believe in it, because otherwise, why would you keep pushing against the odds so hard? So I think what James Gunn said, well, and that as well, yeah. Obviously, they've lost a lot of money with this as well. But I think there is merit to what James Gunn's saying there. I think it probably is very, you know, whether it's one of the best of all time, who knows? But I think it's certainly going to be good. I do think it's going to be good. It's definitely the one I'm most looking forward to out of like the ones we've got coming out in the next year. It's definitely the one I'm most looking forward to.
What DC movies are coming out in the next year? So we've got The Flash, Aquaman,
Shazam, and Blue Beetle.
Okay, yeah. Right. So out of those ones, I agree. I would say The Flash only because he's in my top 5 favorite characters, not because of the actor, but because of the character.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah. I mean, The Flash, I just think it has I think it's the most interesting out of the 4. In regards to, I just kind of want to see it. Like, we're getting the trailer, I believe in 10 days. I think it's on the Super Bowl. We are getting the first trailer for The Flash, so we will actually get a proper look at it. So I'm excited just to see exactly what the movie is, to be honest.
Yeah, me too. But yeah, regarding the Supergirl movie, I agree it's too early. I I don't know. Maybe. So is the Superman movie? Is it an origin story?
I believe when he spoke about it a while ago, he said no.
Okay,
it's not.
If it's not an origin story, but just Superman in his early days, then I think that makes it a little bit better. I still think it's too early, but it makes it a little bit better because if we have Superman around for a little bit, then I guess it's not too bad. Rather than having Superman just debut and then immediately after Supergirl comes along, then that would be.
And I think it would be quite cool to kind of have, the Superman and Supergirl team up kind of being a prevalent thing within the universe, because we never really got that on TV, unfortunately. Like, we got it a little bit when Superman was first introduced, but beyond that, he was very, very few and far between. So to have those two established, I think would be quite cool. And like I say, I'm down for the darker take because it just makes it a bit refreshing compared to what we have with Melissa Benoist's version. As great as she was in the role, like, she was pretty perfect, to be honest. A darker take, I think, would be cool.
How would you feel if they cast Melissa again as the Supergirl?
I mean, yeah, she's great, but one thing that Melissa couldn't do was play evil. Anytime she had to play an evil version of the character, it was bad. Like when we had like the Nazi version and the Russian version, it didn't work. I never bought it. So her playing like a darker version, I don't think would work. And also, again, confusing. It does make me think, though, actually, going back to the Flash movie, do you think Grant Gustin's going to cameo?
100%. 100%.
You reckon?
Like, if they like Ezra Miller cameoed in Crisis, there was a reason for that.
Yeah, I think had that cameo not happened, I would say no. But given the fact he did,
exactly.
and there's a precedent to these two meeting, I think we will see him. Like very, very briefly, but I think he will be in it, which will be that'll be awesome to see Grant on the big screen.
Yeah, it will be for like what? No more than a minute. No, even less than a minute. Seconds. But I'll take it.
What about Stephen Amell shows up as well? Oliver Queen on the big screen.
Oh man! Oh, what they should have done is announce a Green Arrow project. That's what they should have done.
Yes, I was very much looking forward to that. I mean, to be fair, I didn't have that in my predictions necessarily. I didn't think that Green Arrow would come this early. I mean, personally, I would love a Green Arrow movie. I think they should do it closer to the comics. Like, I would love to see a lighter-hearted version of Green Arrow, just to make it different from Stephen Amell's version. As much as I obviously adore Stephen Amell's version, adore Arrow, literally my favorite show. But just to differentiate it, just to differentiate it a little bit, I think would be good. But the last thing that they announced was a Swamp Thing. I can't remember if this was a TV show or a movie. I want to say it's a movie, but I could be wrong.
Well, I would imagine a movie because they did the TV show already.
Yeah, which they cancelled after like the premiere or whatever stupid time it was. That was a mad time.
Which they shouldn't have because it was very good.
Yeah, it was very strange because it literally, I think the premiere came out, they cancelled it, and then everyone was like, "Why? This is actually really, really good."
Exactly.
So yeah, I don't know. I guess maybe James Gunn is a fan of the character and thought, "Yeah, we need to bring this back." But they said this is going to be a horror take. This is actually a horror movie, apparently. Which, cool. Like, if you're going to do that, definitely do it with a member of the Justice League Dark. Absolutely. Could this also lead to a Justice League Dark project in the future? I certainly hope so.
Yeah, I agree. I do think we're going to get, because James Gunn is open to doing new stuff and introducing characters people haven't necessarily heard of before. So projects like Justice League Dark is definitely something that I could see him doing in the future.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing I will say about this entire slate is it might not be necessarily the most conventional. Like, it's certainly not what I thought he was going to do. I thought it was going to be very, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Green Lantern.
Yeah.
Like all your core members. But the fact we've got stuff like the authority and Booster Gold and all this other shit is like, I do think it's cool in a way. Like I said, I don't know how general audiences are going to take to it necessarily. I don't know if it's going to work, but it's certainly different, which I like, and can lead to very different projects to what a lot of other superhero companies are doing. As much as I'm enjoying the MCU, and I still enjoy the MCU, you know, their stuff is kind of samey. So the fact this is going to be quite, you know, the fact that Swamp Thing, for example, is being described as a horror project is a cool idea. He also does say in the video, and I don't know if this was maybe a slip of the tongue, but he does describe it as being outside of the DCU. But he didn't include it as part of like his Elseworlds thing. So I don't know if this is part of the main continuity or not. I kind of hope it's, you know, it is part of the main continuity, because Swamp Thing's a cool character, and if you want to do more with him in the future and lead into the Justice League Dark, you kind of need him around. So hopefully he is. But I mean, I'm down for like a horror version of the character. I think that's quite a cool way to take it, given the character that he is.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed this. I really loved the Swamp Thing show, so that's got me excited to see the character again. I'm really excited to see how the movie is going to be handled, whether it can top the quality of the show. We'll see. And the fact that it's going to have a horror aspect, like before, I would, but I don't know, for some reason, like literally very recently, I've been more inclined to watch some horror stuff. So it's come at a right time, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean, the good thing about James Gunn is he does come from a horror background. That was where he kind of made his start. So him kind of bringing that back, you know, and because I imagine out of all these, you know, we don't know how involved he is necessarily in each of these projects. Like I say, we know he's writing Creature Commandos. I imagine he'll be involved in Waller in some description. We know he's writing Superman. I could see him being involved in this, perhaps writing it or having a hand in you know, the production of it in some way, just because of his background. And he seems quite passionate about the character. Yeah,
definitely. So, well, the thing about James Gunn, he has a lot of passion for a lot of stuff, which is good. You have to have passion, you know. It's better to do something with passion than to do something just for a paycheck.
Yeah, I mean, you can clearly see based on all this that the fact that he even, you know, knows who the authority is, you know, a good sign that he understands this universe and he knows it and he wants to make good content out of it. And the fact that, you know, when you look at like his Suicide Squad movie, the characters he introduced in that, you know, are these sort of E-lister comic book villains that people don't even know, who, you know, even, you know, they're these really super deep cuts. Even, you know, your average DC fan, people like me and you may not have even heard of, is really cool. And introducing these people to audiences is a good way to go about it. So the fact that he has that passion for it definitely shows that he is one of the best people you could get, really, to take over DC and lead us into this new era of DC cinematic fiction.
Yeah, agreed.
So before we wrap up, because that was everything that was announced, I guess, is there anything that you feel like is missing here, or what are like your overall thoughts on it?
Anything missing? Well, in terms of projects?
Yeah, like, is there anything that you sort of thought maybe was going to be announced or something you'd like to see that wasn't?
Maybe a Martian Manhunter movie.
Ooh.
I think.
Yeah, that would have been cool. Kind of weird, you got like a Supergirl movie and not a Martian Manhunter project.
Yeah, exactly. And who else? What about Titans?
Well, one thing,
it's Teen Titans.
Titans. I mean, they've just cancelled Titans, so
they cancelled. I thought it was renewed.
So it's it's currently airing season 4, but it has been announced that season 4 is going to be its last season. It was cancelled. Doom Patrol's been cancelled as well.
Wow. Okay. I read somewhere that season 5 was happening. Wow.
No, it's not happening. It got cancelled like, I want to say like 5 days ago, something like that. It was very, very recent.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I haven't been on social media much for the past week. Just haven't had
Yeah, you've had a
time.
busy couple
So
weeks,
maybe
haven't
Hmm?
you? So I think, yeah, Titans, I would love to see a Titans project. But again, we're going back to the Batman stuff. Like, if you're going straight to Damien, like, you're sort of skipping over. Yeah, you've already sort of skipped over that. So again, I don't know if you can really do that. For me, like, as we mentioned before, I would love to see a Green Arrow project announced. I just love the character.
Yeah. Oh yeah, me too. Yeah.
Like maybe they could finally adapt the. Yeah. Maybe they could finally adapt the Escape from Supermax script that's been lying around Hollywood for like 20 years. And then also, I am interested to see what they do with the Flash going forward. I think they didn't announce anything from the Flash purely for the fact that obviously they have got this movie coming out with Ezra Miller, and I think after that movie comes out, depending on how it performs, they'll make those decisions.
Yeah,
I just don't think they want to say anything about that because it's just, you know, from a PR point of view, you don't want to say anything. You want to be as kind of positive and forthgoing as possible when it comes to this movie. But yeah, I think Green Arrow and Flash obviously being two of my favorites up there with Batman. I think they're the characters I want to see most. Like I said, I really wanted a Green Lantern project, so to get that, I'm very, very pleased with that. And like I say, just a bit of stability in the DC universe. That'd be nice.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, stability and consistency. Because even with this whole reset thing, it still doesn't feel consistent.
No, that's what I thought when I first sort of got the slate in my hands. I was looking at it, I was like, this doesn't feel as clean cut as I was expecting. I was kind of expecting it to be a complete clean slate and very, very simply laid out, and it's kind of not. But again, like on the one hand, I think that's messy, but on the other hand, I'm excited about the projects that are here. And I think it's very different and very experimental, which I think is cool. Again, very different to what Marvel's doing. And I mean, 2025 is going to be a pretty wild year with the Batman 2, Superman, and then we've also got like, is it Kang Dynasty that's out that year? It's one of the Avengers movies.
Yeah, Kang Dynasty, yeah. I mean, they were both supposed to come out the same year, but then they...
they were, yeah. I think that's probably for the best, to be honest. I think 2 Avengers movies of that scale in the same year is a bit much. I think letting us wait a year is probably good.
Imagine that though, 2 Avengers movies in the same year. I kind of wanted it to happen. I'm not gonna lie to you. I kind of wanted that to happen.
I wanted it to happen, but yeah, I don't know. I think that's a lot, especially because I imagine they're both going to be probably 3 hours long as well, especially Secret Wars.
Yeah, obviously, but is that, and that's the thing. Like the ending of Kang Dynasty is going to leave a big cliffhanger, no doubt. So, do you really want to wait a whole year?
Well, it's going to be like Infinity War again, or Infinity War just ended. But I kind of enjoyed that though, like the fact they just kind of left us hanging for a year. I think is quite fun. So it could be cool. It depends how they handle it though. Especially because I think in 2025 we're also getting Fantastic Four as well, so that will be a cool thing. I think that's coming first, and then we get Kang Dynasty. So that's 2 like big Marvel things happening that year. Do we really need Secret Wars as well? You know, I think we could do with a breather after all that. And also just one final note as well. They did actually, I read in a press release that this slate is only a part of Chapter 1. James Gunn did say that, like, this isn't absolutely everything. And this slate runs from 2025 to 2027. They're going to release 2 movies and 2 shows per year, apparently.
So basically 3 movies and 3 TV shows.
Yeah.
Per year.
Yeah. Which I think is smart, just to like set your limit, because like say what Marvel did in last year, where we got like what was it, like 4 or 5 shows plus 3 movies. Like it's the reason why audience interest in the MCU, particularly on the general side, has been dropping, is because there's too much content out there for people to keep up with. You know, obviously all your committed people can do it, but your average audience members aren't going to be able to keep up with it. especially when the TV shows require 6 hours at a time to get through it all. So I think just limiting it to those, I think, is smart. But again, just don't overdo it, because you're going to kill the universe off quicker than you intend to.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Well, I wish them good luck. Let's hope it's
yeah. Don't fuck it up this time. So yeah, if you guys have any thoughts about this, make sure you let us know in the comment section down below. What do you think about this new DC slate? Is there anything you think that's missing? Do you think it's a great slate? Do you think it's a bit disappointing? Whatever you think, let us know. And how do you feel about James Gunn taking over in general? So Chris, where can people find you?
Yeah, so you can subscribe to my YouTube channel at ComiChris, ComiChris, or you can follow me on Twitter at ComiChrisy. So the same ComiChris, and then at the end SY. Yeah, on Twitter.
Cool. And of course, if you want to see more content like this, more live streams, more videos, etc., make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell, follow me on Twitter to keep up with everything. And we hope to see you guys again sometime soon.
Adios.